Okay, we'll return to Commissioner Mahoney when he returns. I don't know what happened there. Darius, did you want to speak a second time? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief, very brief. I'm just curious. I guess I'm curious as to what the real problem is. Again, as I mentioned earlier, and as Commissioner Mahoney has mentioned earlier, we were able to get together to look at all of the drafts that were submitted, that were in hopes of being voted on tonight. And to the best of our abilities, we've taken all of the concerns from all of the other resolutions and created one resolution that encompasses the voice of every resolution that was submitted. So I'm curious as to what the real problem is. Is it that we're calling attention to a much needed matter in Jackson County?
Darius, I think what's happened is some commissioners didn't get the second draft that you and Daniel had worked on this afternoon and evening. Would you mind sharing that with us? Do you have it in front of you, sir?
Yes, but it's in everyone's email that was sent out today.
Okay, would you please, Darius, read it into the record?
The entire resolution?
The latest resolution, yes.
Okay.
Mute me and.
Resolution to declare racism a public health crisis. Whereas the County Board of Commissioners of the County of Jackson, State of Michigan, pursuant to Michigan statute, is vested with the authority of the administrating the affairs of county government of Jackson County, Michigan, and is organized as a body of corporate of the powers of municipalities provided by law and to protect, excuse me, and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Jackson County and the employees of Jackson County government. And whereas the vision of Jackson County Board of Commissioners is responsible, innovative, transparent, and caring county government, inevitably serving a safe and diverse and welcoming, prosperous community. And whereas a safe community is a result of public safety professionals working in partnership with the people that they serve by working together with mutual respect, we make Jackson County a safe place to work, play for all. Whereas race is a social construct with no biological basis, and racism is a social system with multiple dimensions, including individual racism, which is internalized for interpersonal, and systematic racism, which is an institutional or instructional. It is a system of structuring opportunity and assisting value based upon the social interpretation of how one looks, and systematic racism unfairly disadvantages some individuals and communities, unfairly advantages other individuals and communities, and displaces the strength of the whole society. Whereas racism is rooted in the foundation of America from the chattel slavery beginning in the 1600s to the Jim Crow era, up to the declaration of the war on drugs, and eventually led to the mass incarceration racism, which is remained a presence in American society. Excuse me. And whereas the historical racism in Michigan has impacted Black Americans, or Michiganders, excuse me, including the Black residents in the county of Jackson as early as the 1870, where Jackson County residents voted against a state measure giving Blacks the right to vote. Whereas the documented in proceeding to the Jackson County Board of Commissioners on September 9th of 1971, a meeting, members of minority groups were approved to be appointed as an advisory members to the county boards and commissions, but with no pay and no vote. Whereas documented in the proceedings of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners September 23rd of 1971 meeting, resolution minority employment was passed affirming the county's non-discriminatory hiring and appointing policy aiming to specifically to involving more members of minority groups in the business of government. And whereas today, 50 years later, the Jackson County government has less than 11% Black minorities working in the county departments, 1 Black road patrol deputy, and in the county sheriff department, 0 Black department heads in the county of Jackson departments. And whereas racism, including implanted and conscious basis causes, excuse me, persistent racial discrimination in the criminal justice, social capital, voter suppression, education, transportation, employment, and food access, mental health and health behaviors, and systematic or psychoeconomic, status, environmental exposure to access to health services and housing and public safety. Whereas racism has caused many ethnic groups to endure such hardships, especially Black people. Whereas in more recent years, discriminatory housing practices used in the 20th century, known as redlining, along with the Reed restrictions, prohibited Black people from living in certain parts of Jackson County. And whereas 40% of Black people live in poverty in Jackson County, 63% of Black children live in poverty in Jackson County, and unemployment rates are 19% among Black people in Jackson County. And whereas infant death rates of Black babies are 3 times higher than what white babies and Black girls have teen births between the ages of 15 and 19 at a rate of 67 per 1,000. And whereas, in pursuit of the research suggested of the history of racism has a lasting detrimental impact on the educational outcomes of Black students and others through curriculum and disciplinary and climate, and the percent of population with a bachelor's degree or higher for Black females is 20% and for Black males 9%. Whereas racism has been determined to be a social deterrent of health and inequities through its direct psychology and impact of individuals and population health, as indirectly through its impact on educational, psychoeconomic, and other social structures, which can lead to negative long-term outcomes. And whereas it is in Jackson County Board of Commissioners' intent to condemn all forms of racism and as well as discrimination and enact within a fair and equitable manner in regard to all citizens of Jackson County when it comes to access of county services and hiring practices, as well as promotion by the County of Jackson. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Jackson County Board of Commissioners hereby declares that racism is a public health crisis that adversely impacts our children, families, and community and our county. Therefore, be it further resolved by the Jackson County Board of Commissioners, the board hereby officially condemns all acts of discrimination and racism and formally states that any form of discrimination or racism is unacceptable in our county, and it is determined to be an inclusive county. And therefore, be it further resolved, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners will through the standard application appointment process, a 7-member subcommittee comprised of 3 commissioners and 4 Jackson County residents to develop a racial equity policy to be presented for consideration for adoption no later than September 1st study session by Jackson County Board of Commissioners and to be implemented by Jackson County Administrator. Be it further resolved that the board directs its staff to forward a copy of the resolution to the county fellow commissioners, elected officials, the state legislator, House of Representatives, and state senators, the governor of the state of Michigan, and to all U.S. Michigan congressmen. The resolution was adopted, That's the end of the resolution, Mr. Chair.